Dream Team, it's your boy Neal, back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with Larry Bird, Beyond the Glory basketball documentary. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, give the video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. You guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. This is part 3, the final part. I'm excited to jump in. What we got, Larry?
But you could stick straw between his... Larry Bird is no hick, believe me. But you could stick straw between his teeth and he could play the role and he could convince a lot of mid-America that he was their boy.
How long have you been playing basketball, Larry?
I started 2 years ago in the United States, so I've probably been playing. When I'm 22, I probably played 24 years.
24 years. Okay.
He's street smart. On the front cover of Sporting News, he wore Adidas, and on another magazine, he wore Converse, and another one, he wore Nike. So he had them all thinking that, hey, we might be able to sign this guy to a shoe contract.
Beyond an acute awareness of his own commercial potential, Bird waged psychological warfare at the drop of a ball.
The '84 Olympic team was playing an exhibition game against a bunch of pros, including Larry Bird, and they were in the warm-ups. And a ball bounced down from the college end of the court to the pro end. And Michael Jordan went down to chase it. The ball happened to be picked up by Larry Bird. And Michael went up a few feet away from Larry Bird and held out his hands. And Bird took the ball and fired it back down the court over Jordan's head, as if to say, you're not only not getting this ball, I don't give a damn who you are. Larry Bird knows exactly who this guy is and what's going to happen in the next few years. And he wants to get every edge he can get right now.
I remember going to Boston Garden for the first time. I couldn't wait to see it, walk on that floor. And I got there three and a half hours before game time. And the lights weren't even on the court. But I heard a ball bouncing as I was walking through the court. And look who's here 3.5 hours before the game begins, an hour before anyone else would even be in the building other than the popcorn vendor, but Larry Bird.
Larry Bird has always been afraid of failing. And what did that make him do? It made him work harder than anybody else. You know, they talk about Larry Bird practicing in the rain. Larry Bird practicing out by himself all the time, before games, after games. And I think that's the ethic that he brought from that small town environment and the ethic that he has today.
Averaging 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists in his first 5 seasons, Larry Bird led Boston to 2 NBA titles. In 1986, after helping the Celtics to 67 regular season victories, including a 40-1 home record, he won Finals MVP honors as Boston defeated Houston in 6 games.
It is all over. The Boston Celtics are the world champions for the 16th time.
I think Larry was the mystique. I think Larry was the confidence. The parquet floor and the championship banners didn't mean anything if Larry Bird wasn't on the court with us.
Bird's mystique.
You can't help but to love the kind of basketball player Larry Bird was. You just can't help it, man. I'm loving this documentary.
Banners didn't mean anything if Larry Bird wasn't on the court with us.
Bird's mystique was never greater than in Game 5 of the 1987 Eastern Conference Finals against Detroit. With the series tied at 2 games apiece and the Pistons holding a 1-point lead and the ball with 5 seconds to go, Bird came to the rescue.
And now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Oh my, this place is going crazy.
He was just very smart, and he was tough enough to hang in the game and grind you out and grind you down. I mean, you knew it was coming, you just didn't know where, how, and when.
His tenacity, his will to win, he never gave up. And that's what I admire most about Larry.
Bird comes free. Bird for the layup.
Bird's 24th quarter points in a showdown with Atlanta's Dominique Wilkins in Game 7 of the 1988 Eastern Conference semifinals was not a sign of things to come. The Celtics lost in the next round, and Bird would not lead them that far again. Plagued by a bad back and other injuries, Bird missed 142 games in his final 4 seasons.
Bird Bird is down.
I hate watching that play. That one hurts for real.
He's hurt.
The lengths that this man went through. He dives on the floor for a loose ball, bangs his head, has a concussion. He's sitting in the locker room with the team physician, Arnie Scheller. And Arnie said, you know, Larry, you've done all you could. It's been a great run. You know, you're not going back out there. And Larry said, no, you're right, Arnie. I'm done. And then he looked at Arnie and waited till Arnie's attention was gone for a moment. And he got up, he went back out, and of course, they won the game.
Out of the pages of Willis Reed.
I think the last 2 years of Larry's career, after he came back from missing almost an entire season due to twin Achilles surgery, were even worse for him because of his back. And it was a congenital thing. It got worse and worse to the point where after he retired, he had to have spinal fusion surgery.
This was a guy who played, went home from practice, was put in a full body brace for the rest of the day, would get up the next morning, take it off, go to practice, come back, and put that brace back on. That's what he had to do to finish that final season. When his career was over, he took that body brace out into the woods, he pulled out a shotgun, and he blew it to pieces.
In the summer of 1992, Bird nursed his sore back through the Barcelona Games, winning a gold medal as part of the first ever professional U.S. Olympic team. Then, in August, he knew it was time to step down.
And he had a clause in his contract that said that if he did not retire by August 15th, that he would have an automatic renewal of his contract for $4.5 million a year. On August 12th, he came into Dave Gavitt, the president of the Celtics, and said, Dave, I can't do it, my back's too bad, I'm going to retire. Gavitt said to him, Larry, why don't you think about it for a week? Bird narrowed his eyes and looked at him and said, look, I know what day this is, and if I'm not going to play, I'm not going to take the money.
Bro, you just love the man that Larry Bird is. Outside of the basketball player that he is, you can't help but love Larry Bird, the person. Oh my gosh, this man is inspirational, bro. He's absolutely inspirational.
And I say thank you. I'll be around, but tonight, my basketball career is officially over, and I had a blast.
3 years before his retirement, Bird married Dinah Mattingly. It was not his first marriage. As a freshman at Indiana State, he wed Janet Condra. Within a year, they divorced. From a failed attempt at reconciliation, a daughter, Corey, was born in 1977. When Bird signed with Boston, he arranged for monthly checks to be drawn for her until she was 18.
I think he felt like, it was his fault, and it wasn't. It wasn't his fault. It was a matter of a small-town girl that got married too young, didn't want to be married anymore, and he couldn't do anything about it. Once you hurt Larry, that's for life. He's not going to ever accept you again.
Every time I see him, he tells me he loves me, and then as soon as I leave, I don't hear from him for maybe a year. In my letters, every single time I write my phone number and address, call me, just call and say hi, leave a message, anything.
He has 2 adopted children. Apparently, he is a great father to them. But when you looked at the induction ceremony for Larry going into the Hall of Fame and you see the 2 adopted children there, and you didn't see his natural-born daughter, there's something wrong.
I don't completely agree with his side of the way that he sees things or the way that he does things, but I understand. There's no sense of me being bitter about it now. That's just going to make my life worse. It's probably hard for him to show how he feels. Maybe he just can't say it.
He would come into her life and then leave, and do that over and over again. She'd get her hopes up and then she'd get hurt.
It's harder for him just because he doesn't know where to start. So hopefully, sometime he'll, come around and understand that, I'm going to be here for a while. That would give me a lot of hope, and then we could build from that.
I think if he has had one issue with his first wife and his daughter to some degree, is that they've never kept that relationship private. And I said to him once, doesn't it bother you, the perception that people have of you as this, deadbeat dad that doesn't care at all about this child? And he said, well, I know the truth, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened with their relationship, but hopefully, I know this was made a while. I'm not sure how long ago, but hopefully they've reconciled, and because I can't imagine as a parent, ever wanting to to feel like you don't know your daughter or your child doesn't know you. And so hopefully by now they've reconciled. They come to understand each other and build a relationship with each other. Because that is sad. That is sad.
The prodigal son is coming home. Larry Joe Bird, perhaps the greatest player in the history of basketball tradition-rich Indiana, will become the head coach of the Indiana Pacers.
Hired in 1997, Larry Bird earned Coach of the Year in his first season. He brought his team to the verge of defeating the defending champion Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals.
When the Pacers hit the shot, and Bird just sat there and did not move. To me, that was so Larry Bird. He was the one calm guy in the place.
He's made so many last-second and heroic shots himself. I think he was more so thinking about the next situation.
Bird's Pacers lost in 7 games, but his intuitive coaching style continued to produce positive results.
He knew that he had a veteran team, so it wasn't necessary for him to shout and scream and yell, which really isn't his style anyway.
He's a guy that doesn't say, hey, I did it this way, you do it this way. He appreciates each and every guy's individual talent, their skill. He's a no-nonsense guy.
He had very few rules, but Dale Davis and Travis Best one day were a little bit late. The plane was about to take off. They were on the tarmac. Someone said, shall we stop and let them up? And Bird said, hell no, let's go. I mean, let them learn a lesson.
I like that.
While Bird kept his team in line, he was quietly battling atrial fibrillation, a heart condition he wasn't aware of until after he retired as a player. Although he took medicine to keep it under control, he had occasional episodes.
He's coaching a game. It's on national TV, and he's standing there, and, he's in the throes of the game, and he felt as though his heart was jumping right out of his chest. He starts to sweat profusely, and he said, I thought I was going to pass out in the middle of this game. He called a timeout and sank literally into the chair that they always put on the court for him and composed himself. The amazing part to me is his assistants, his players, nobody noticed. Nobody knew anything was wrong.
That's crazy.
After reaching the Eastern Conference Finals in his first 2 seasons, Bird guided Indiana to the NBA Finals against his old rivals in 2000.
And now they come to their feet at the fieldhouse. Earlier they were chanting, Larry, Larry, refusing to bow out. Instead, they blow the Lakers out.
But the Pacers lost in 6 games. 3 days later, Bird stepped down as head coach and returned home to Naples, Florida, with his wife and 2 adopted children. He still visits the state where it all began for him.
The dollars didn't change him. He loves to take care of his own yards. He comes down here and mows in the summertime with his help and paints that big white fence all around. He works. And Larry will always be the same. He'll always be the same.
I think sometimes of people who have no family, and I think it's the saddest thing in the world. Because I know right now, if I needed something, that I could call them. They would be there.
All of us are driven by things that when we were young made us insecure, that we want to put back in the closet. The game sets you apart and lifts you up and gives you your place in the community, gives you a legitimacy, a decency, an importance that otherwise was denied you.
I asked him one time, I said, what would it have been like if you had stayed on the sanitation truck? He said, Pete, hopefully I would have been boss by now.
The high noon wedding of Larry Bird and Dinah Mattingly took place at a friend's home just outside Terre Haute. The bride and groom wore jeans. Only 5 others were present, including the judge who married them. The ceremony lasted under 5 minutes. After the newlyweds cut the cake, Larry and his best man went outside and shot some hoops. For Sports Century, I'm Chris Fowler.
That's so Larry. That's such a Larry Bird wedding, bro. That's such a... you can't help but to love the guy, man. Everything he did for the game of basketball and helped save the game of basketball. Just an incredible guy. That's all we got. You guys got a favorite video suggestion? You guys can subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. Social media, Patreon, all up top. You can subscribe to any of it. Put all the links in the description. All you gotta do is hit the link, follow me, talk human, talk back. Love talking to you guys. You guys are the most incredible team on YouTube. It's your boy Neal. Out.